And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fine on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series. Watson, touchdown. Renfro. He got him, and it's all over. Coastal Carolina rules the roost. They win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
Senegal baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
It has finally arrived. Greetings and a good Thursday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. Find us on the JB and Goldwater app. You download it in your phone. It's free, and you can watch and listen to our program anywhere in the world, anytime you want to. If you happen to miss something, you go back, check it out, and we'll keep you filled in on what's going on like we're going to do today. Live coverage for the next couple of hours of the PGA Championship being hosted at the Ocean Course at Kiowa Island. We will be joined in just a couple of moments by our golf experts, former Gamecock star Meredith Taylor and current golf pro at Stono Ferry, our golf partners here on the JB and Goldwater Show, Scott Glaze. We'll also be joined this afternoon by Cory McCartney and Drew Meyer. We have baseball to get to, so it will be a full, fun day. If you are watching the program, in the man in black to the right, that's me, JB. To the left, that's Darren Goldwater, across all social media platforms at JB and Goldwater, individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. If you've got a question for Scott or Meredith as it pertains to the PGA Championship, send it our way. You can pop it in any platform that you're watching or listening from, and you can always text it to 843-321-8893. Make sure that you follow Darren and I individually as well on Twitter at SportsMediaJB and at Darren Goldwater. All right, it's underway, Darren, and currently Keegan Bradley's at the top of the leaderboard at 4 under.
It's been a great morning so far because the course is playing like so many hoped that it would, in that it's a bear. The leaderboard has changed around a couple of times already. A buddy of mine who's actually working this had a great analogy. He said, this is going to be a lot like a British Open from a scoring standpoint. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. There's going to be a lot of changes on the leaderboard because it's so unpredictable. The course is going to take, and the course is going to give you some. And like Bryson DeChambeau actually said yesterday, it's going to take a little bit of luck, whoever comes out of this thing. And he needs a little bit of luck right now. But it's been a good morning so far. The course is starting to show some of its teeth. And as the afternoon goes on, we're going to see a lot more of them.
Absolutely. The sandy areas have played certainly a role thus far. They're going to throughout the entire tournament. We're going to talk to both Scott and Meredith about that. Behind Keegan Bradley, you've got a host at 3 under. That is Paul Casey. Duff Daddy, Jason Duffner's in there at 3 under as well. And Henrik Stenson and Tom Lewis. Cam Tringale's dropped a bit, but he's playing well. He's at 2 under par through 16. Matt Jones also at 2 under. So is Martin Laird, Bubba Watson, who, by the way, has some pretty sweet kicks on today. Victor Hovland, Colin Morikawa, Eric Van Rooyen. They are all at 2 under. And Hovland and Morikawa, probably a couple of young names to keep an eye on. We've had them discussed on our program a lot over the last couple of months via Scott Glaze and others, and they're playing fairly well early.
Well, yeah, and Morikawa is the defending champ of this tournament that was played like a couple of months ago, but he is officially the defending champ. Right. And a couple of the other guys, the PGA tends to have some guys pop up and win, good players who maybe haven't won yet. Tringale is a good example of that. He's played in over like 300 tournaments. He's never finished first, but he's got $14 million in career earnings. He's also playing with the South Carolina grad, Rada, who led this entire tournament off. Last I checked, he was 3 over, but that was a while ago. Rada's only a club pro. This is his first ever PGA event, so it's pretty cool that he's even here.
Yeah, he's one of 20 club pros that are in the field this week, as a matter of fact, and so it's a full, fun field, no question. Some of the major or feature groups, I would say, went off this morning. We'll get to some of those in just a little bit. They have certainly had their issues out there, but they're hanging in there, and so are these fine folks. Scott Glaze, the golf pro at Stono Ferry in the original Hollywood here in the low country of South Carolina. Meredith Taylor, former star at South Carolina. They are actually live out on Kiowa Island, and they're going to tell us everything about what they've seen. How we doing, ladies and gents?
What's going on? Let's party.
Yeah, it is a party.
It's our setup.
Party, from what I understand out there. First and foremost, how are you both doing? I know that y'all have been following along throughout the week. You've been out on Kiowa, kind of walking the course, watching the guys get ready to go for this morning. What have you noticed most, or I guess what has stood out the most to both of you as we've led into day one?
Well, as I mentioned to you guys earlier, we've started a drinking game to where you drink every time we mention the wind. I think that's going to be a constant theme. That was my theme over the course of the last few days, walking around of how breezy it has been, especially compared to the 2012 PGA Championship, and how that's going to play a factor on these guys. This morning when I got out there, looking at the leaderboard and seeing scores under par, and then B, just sticking my finger up, measuring the wind, not as breezy so far this morning. When I got out to the golf course, definitely less than 10 miles an hour. And by the time I left to come join you guys, it's stiffening up to probably 10 to 15 miles an hour. So the guys out early on the golf course, as we see, Cameron Tringale first out, 7 a.m., taking advantage. Same with Keegan Bradley. These guys towards the top are taking advantage of the calm conditions.
Yeah, we were talking yesterday about in normal tournaments, we love to play late, early tee times. Just because you get that momentum of when you're playing well, you want to just get right back out on the golf course. But for this, we were saying we both want to do early, late, because you can go out and post that good number this morning with not a lot of wind and really take advantage. And then you can see how the course plays this afternoon with the guys and know what you're getting into the next day. But early, lates are going to have an advantage, I think.
Well, obviously the win, and I think Darren actually has a graphic. He'll probably pop up here in just a moment as it pertains to the win and how it could change throughout the weekend. Right now, it's coming out of the east, but this weekend, later on this weekend, projected to be coming from the southwest as the temperatures heat up on the coast. That will change the wind direction. But let me ask you it from the course standpoint, not just wind. Wind certainly is a challenge in itself. We'll get to sandy areas and things like that here in just a moment. But as the wind, if it's going to stay or stick around much more so than August 9 years ago, if it's 10, 12, 14, whatever it is, not only are you going to deal with the wind, but you're going to deal with the course itself. So how will that affect those 18 holes that these guys will have to play on throughout the week?
I mean, it's a mental grind, as you can see with the east winds that we've got right now. I was on the golf course earlier and saw Justin Thomas on the 17th hole, which is already daunting. Looked like they were playing 17 up a little bit today, and like I said, not nearly as breezy this morning. And he backed off the shot maybe 2-3 times in between clubs. I think he ultimately went with the longer club, put it in the deep stuff, long of the green, made bogey. So the golf course is a grind already. Then you mix in just all of these other factors. I mean, you were playing on the ocean. So if you've never been to the ocean course, if you've taken a family vacation to the ocean, just imagine hitting golf shots around while you're building sandcastles. That's what this is. And it's you cannot control that golf ball once it's in the air. So it's a mental grind on these guys, and that's the biggest. I mean, the biggest.
I was joking with him yesterday. I said it's like Beauty and the Beast. It's the most gorgeous golf course and piece of property, and most iconic views. But then you tee it up, and it's just a beast of a golf course. You're having to mentally commit to these shots, and you're having to, talk to your caddy and be like, well, that's an extra 3 clubs. Let's just, it's just a mental grind every shot. And it's going to be interesting to see all the drama unfold.
Well, Meredith, Taylor, Scott, Glaze, Darren, Goldwater, JB here till 2 o'clock. These guys aren't here for the whole 2 hours, but they will be in and out, certainly plenty. All right, so the wind is one. No rain, though, in the forecast, and heat. What is that going to do for green speeds on the Ocean Course?
Well, green speeds should stay about the same because of the wind. As we continue to mention, they can't get too fast. If they start to get too fast, the ball wouldn't stay stagnant. So I think the greens. We talk about the stimp meter reading, which is the speed the number of feet that a ball rolls from a certain angle in which it's rolled on the green. That's probably the most basic way to describe it. A 12 on the stimp meter is pretty quick. It's not as fast as we normally see. Augusta National is going to roll 14, 15, 16. Stone Ferry, we are going to run about a 10 or 11. Out here, they're running about a 12, which is a great. Meredith would probably agree with me that you can make a lot of putts on green speeds that are 12. It's not really going to get away from you. But with the heat, with the wind, with the sunshine, the golf course is going to get as firm as they want it to get, as firm as the maintenance crew wants to have it. They can control the water that's going on the golf course when there are no rain showers. They can control how long they run those sprinklers. So if they want it to get baked out, this weather is going to be conducive to that.
And I think
they can't
before.
really.
Oh, so go ahead.
Right. I mean, and Meredith, you can answer to this because we've seen as recently as when they were just out of Torrey Pines, when the wind blows and the stimps getting up to the 13, 14, that you can't play. The ball's going to be rolling all over the place. So the one advantage the players might have here is that the greens have to stay soft to a degree.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, it'd get completely out of hand if it were like Augusta, right? Because the wind out here, if it starts gusting 25, it's rolling off the green. But again, like he was saying, with these windy conditions, obviously you got to be in the fairway to control that. You're not going to do very well if you're not hitting fairways out here. But then you're going to have to expect that you're going to miss greens. I mean, you're going to get a gust of wind and you're going to miss greens. So you have to mentally prepare for that. And just, you're going to have these 6, 7, 8 footers that you're going to have to keep the momentum going, making these par putts.
And the thing about these greens at the Ocean Course, it's not their front line of defense. The wind is the front line of of defense. The diabolical nature of Pete Dye is a big defense, and that's why ESPN they put out their tiers of people who can win, and they had 21 guys in the top tier of who can legitimately win this tournament. And looking through all the names, I agree with all 21. The fact that you don't have to be a phenomenal putter really brings a lot of guys into this championship, and I think that's what's going to make it really exciting. Because yes, you're going to have some 6, 7, 8 footers for crucial par saves, and you're also going to be able to make a run, by making maybe some 15, 20 footers that on more diabolical greens you would be putting a lot more defensively.
That voice you hear, Scott Glaze, Meredith Taylor, joining him live from Kiowa Island, South Carolina. We are not too far away from them as we bring you coverage of the 2021 PGA Championship right here on the JB and Goldwater Show. Let me roll out some stats real quick. Actual yardage playing today is 76.60. The front 9 is 37.29. The back is 39.31. So it's about 216 yards shorter than that listed yardage heading into the tournament. From what I understand, 12 tees have been moved up a little bit here, 12 tees, and that does include some of those par 3s. We know they're difficult out there. So they've made some adjustments. I want to ask about let's talk about sandy areas, because generally, right, I would say 9 out of 10 times when we're watching golf on television, you hear bunker, 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 but you're not going to hear that this week. There's sandy areas at the Ocean Course at Kiowa Island. What is the difference, number one, to the casual golf fan, and how unique are those sandy areas on the Ocean Course, and what challenges they present to the field?
Well, the biggest thing with a bunker and a sandy area or a natural area or a waste area, we saw this was back, when was it? 2010, whenever Dustin Johnson was in contention early on in his career at Whistling Straits at the PGA Championship, and he grounded his club in what he thought was a sandy area on the 18th hole. In fact, that was a penalty because it turned out to be a bunker. That was, I wouldn't say controversial is the right word, but it made a lot of waves in golf in that ruling. So a few years later at Kiowa Island at the Ocean Course in 2012, they played this the same way, where every sand bunker, or what you might think would be a bunker that you see, is just a sandy area or a waste area. What that means now, they have relaxed the rules on bunkers in the rules of golf recently with the most recent revision, and you can remove loose impediments in the bunker, whereas you used to not be able to, and you can accidentally touch the sand, so on and so forth. So what this means in a sandy area is that you may ground your club, you may take a practice swing and actually hit the sand. You can touch the sand, you can remove any type of loose impediment, so on and so forth. So all of the bunkers, or what you may think are bunkers at the Ocean Course, are played as these natural waste areas. That does not mean that they play easier, however, because they are natural wind-swept areas. Meredith showed me a tweet yesterday where I thought they said they weren't going to have bunker rakes out there, which blew my mind because of the traffic of 156 players playing today and tomorrow, and then the guys to make the cut on the weekend. When I was out there this morning, though, they do have bunker rakes out there. So caddies are still raking the bunkers, but you can still it can be an advantage because you can somewhat test the conditions a little bit in terms of a practice swing before your shot. Also could be a disadvantage because they are not necessarily the nice, pristine, beautiful bunkers that you may see somewhere like Augusta National or Murfield Village.
I learned something as I was watching the broadcast this morning. You can only receive this. Matter of fact, I learned this. Rory was on 16. We're going to talk about 16 here in just.
Yeah, we'll get to 16 here in just a couple minutes. I'm not sure exactly where Jamie is going with that thought, but I mean, I'll take it this way with the featured group, the one that I just put this scoreboard update up on. They got off to a rough start. No one's really been able to come back in and bring this entire group back together. How hard is it when you're in a featured group? Both of you can answer this. When you're among the group that everyone's watching and everyone's struggling, how hard is it to rein that back in?
It is tough. Somebody's looking for somebody else to take the lid off of the can. I know that they're all trying. I was able to follow that group a little bit. I'm going to blame some of Rory's play on his green color scheme today. It resembles baby food a little bit. So I don't know if that's reason for his poor play or not. But Brooks is such a wild card because of his knee. He's still, if you're watching the coverage or out there, he still can't read a putt normally, being very ginger or tentative with that knee. And JT, it's tough to say. Those guys, they really need some momentum to get going, because you don't want to waste what is your better wave to play in the morning and to play in these calm conditions. And you're really behind the 8 ball if you shoot a couple over par this morning and then have to turn around and go play at 1:30, 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon and in the stiff winds. Yeah,
but that momentum can shift just as quick. You know, seeing that one putt go in, or long putt, good chip, good drive, you get that momentum going the other direction. So yeah, it can go both ways. If your group starts rolling in some putts, then you start getting that momentum too. Yeah,
and these guys are the best in the world. They can, we see it all the time where somebody can get on a hot streak of making 3 birdies in a row and then turn their round around instantly. So they're certainly not out of it. And the best part of these featured groups is that they are all world class. They are the world class of the world class, and any type of momentum can get them going in a heartbeat.
Let me finish what I was trying to say earlier, if you don't mind here. I learned that you can only receive relief on a ball that's buried if it's in soil. And so the question that I have is, in some of these sandy areas, although they are deemed sandy areas, there are parts of them that have soil where grass has grown out. Is it that? Are we going to have to look that closely? Is it in the sand or is it in the soil? Or if it's in the area, it's deemed in the sandy area?
So that actually, I would say, as a golf professional, just without looking at it, that if it's in the area, it would be deemed to be in the sandy area or in the waste area. That's actually, with the rules of golf, we have the actual rules of golf. There's actually, let's say the rules of golf is about that thick. There is a book that is the decisions of the rules of golf that's about that thick. It's about 4 times the number of pages, and it covers any type of situation that you can possibly think of. I've seen some bizarre rulings in the decisions book, and really that's what the rules officials, the PGA professionals that are out there volunteering as rules officials this week, if they get into that situation, they might have to dive into that decisions book, but ultimately it is up to the rules committee, to the rules official there, the tournament committee, to make that call if it is a borderline call. It's an interesting thing of the game of golf is that we do get some rulings that aren't necessarily black and white.
The next group to tee off in just a couple of minutes, Americans Jim Herman and one of the PGA Tour pros that's in this tournament this week, Danny Balin, alongside Siwoo Kim. They'll go at 12:25. Do want to point out in dead last right now through 15 holes is John Daly. He is 10 over par.
And he was 1 under through 1. He was tied for the lead for a little bit.
Well, he's 10 over now, so it's been a tough go of it. But I don't blame John for wanting to come play a little golf, make a little money for a couple of days, and then drink on the beach for the rest of the weekend. That's a fairly savvy move, if you ask me. Henrik Stenson, Keegan Bradley, Tom Lewis, Colin Morikawa all now tied for the lead at 3 under. Bradley has dropped a shot. I think Darren actually just a moment ago had a graphic up there about that. Martin Laird now has also birdied, so he's in at 3 under. So 5 at 3 under, including Colin Morikawa, who kind of likes to play in these PGA Championships. Let's talk about the 16th. That wind's blowing right at you. It's a 606-yard par 5. It is incredibly rare to see guys by the name of Justin Thomas, Rory McIlroy, and Brooks Koepka literally taking 2 shots and still 100 yards away from the green. And we saw it this morning. So it'll be interesting to watch this hole today, tomorrow, and then watch it again on the weekend as the winds shift.
Yeah, it's going to be a much different hole. I don't think I'm going to look at the pin sheet here.
I'll give you a really quick, funny story. Rory McIlroy, the range was into the wind, like dead into the wind yesterday. He had come off of the range. There were some media members there, and he said, yeah, Poulter's back there hitting a 3-wood 180. So that's fun.
Which normally Poulter's hitting a 3-wood probably 250, 240, 250. Yes, into the breeze today. They have a very difficult pin location on 16. It's 18 paces on and 5 from the left. However, it is about 5 paces to cover the big, huge sandy area to the left. It's so big. I think they have some steps to get out of it, how deep it is. These guys, not being able to get there in 2 is such a rarity for these guys on the PGA Tour and in major championships. However, when the winds shift and they are able to go for it in 2, this is just a tiny little sliver of a green. I've been in the fairway before in a go zone, so to speak, to maybe go for this green in 2. And the green is elevated. You cannot see any of the green surface from that go zone anywhere between 230, maybe 260, 70 yards. You can't see the green surface. You just see that little yellow flag flapping out there in the breeze, in the ocean breeze. And as tempted as you are to go for it, I don't know if that's ever ended well. I think a really good play there is to kind of bail out right. Even if you can reach the green in 2, bail out right, you have a lot of green to work with because it's an incredibly difficult up and down if you do hit it short in the very deep sandy area. And then long is no easy task, as well as we've got collection areas. And like I said, tiny sliver of a green, so very tough to hold from that distance. And
to complement your information there, right now 16 is playing as the most difficult hole on the course. Wow. 7 bogeys and 3 doubles so far. By the way, there are only 2 holes on the course that are playing under par, and that is 7 and 11. 11 has 37 birdies at it already, and 7 with 31. Everybody else is over par except for 12, which is playing dead on at the average score 4, which is par there. 31 doubles out there today already. It's 12:25. What do we expect? How do we expect to see that number as the next 7 hours of golf is played at the Ocean Course?
We're going to see a lot more doubles.
I've been there.
Yeah, right. Been there. I've been there too often, too recently. You got to avoid bogeys are going to happen, especially at a golf course like this. Bogeys are going to happen. For the amateur golfers out there, understand that bogeys are going to happen, and watch how these guys deal and cope with making bogeys. I watched Lee Westwood make a double on 17 and Colin Morikawa make a bogey on 17, and both those guys walked right by me to the 18th tee there. Very stoic, calm, cool. Nobody's snapping a club. Nobody's doing anything. Bogeys are going to happen. Doubles, triples, and others, on the other hand, that's what you want to avoid. If you avoid those at all costs, I am willing to bet a lot of money that when we look back on who our champion is on Sunday, they've got the least amount of squares on the card. You never want those double squares, but they're going to be able to minimize damage. Bogeys are fine. Doubles, triples, that's going to take you out of the tournament.
All right, just a couple minutes left here with Scott and Meredith. They will rejoin us at 1:05 this afternoon, and we'll kind of look at the afternoon groups that are set to go off and kind of look back. Maybe some of these rounds a lot of these rounds will be completed. Let's and this one might be as well. Ricky Fowler. He's currently 1 under through 16. Scott and Meredith, we've had many conversations over the years about Ricky Fowler and breaking through and things like that. Seemingly this morning he was rolling it pretty well, it looked like, on the greens. And right now he's 2 shots off the lead through 16. I think he's on 17 somewhere. What have you seen from him? I'm not sure if you've had a chance to catch a whole lot of him today or in his practice rounds, but if you have, your thoughts on Ricky's play this week.
So Ricky, I was looking, Kyle Porter, CBS golf writer, had a great tweet today. It said, Ricky looks like he's in disguise as an undercover investigator into a complex Phil Mickelson cryptocurrency enterprise. That might be the tweet of the day. He's because he's wearing sunglasses. It's not quite a Ricky look. For Ricky, it's tough. The Golf Channel did a great piece on Live From earlier this week about the kind of rise and fall of Jordan Spieth and how you kind of have to go through these lows, how so many people have to go through the lows to get back to the highs, and also mention Ricky Fowler with that he's in a valley right now and trying to get back to the peak. And from Ricky's own mouth, his ball striking has not left him. It's been his putter that's left him. Ricky was one of the best putters on tour and struggling to find that. So to see him putting well is a great thing. I have always thought that Ricky is a poster child for the PGA Tour and for the game of golf. You go out there and still, even with Ricky slumping, you see so many kids from 5, 6 years old all the way into their teenage years wearing the Ricky Puma hats. Yeah. I mean, he's made his brand. He's a great role model and ambassador for the game. He has a ton of endorsements. We see him in a ton of commercials. We need to see him back up there on the golf course. So I know how difficult that can be to find it. I'm sure Meredith does too.
Yeah, I mean, if you've played golf long enough, you're gonna have those slumps, and you just have to be patient. I know that's kind of a cliche answer, but it is. I mean, you'll get out of it eventually. But if you play golf long enough, this game will humble you at times. But again,
He'll humble you most of the time.
You can get back into it pretty quickly as well. So it's just a confidence thing. Once he starts getting it rolling and getting those, just like we saw Jordan do, time after time, he got in the top 50, top 40, top 30, and then he started getting closer and closer. And then the momentum builds, the confidence starts getting, the swagger comes back. And so it's just a process that you have to go through sometimes.
Exactly.
I want to ask you this real quick. Rory's 2 over. But that's only 5 shots off the lead. What are we thinking about that group right now? That's 2 over, 3 over. You might be able to go as far as 4 over par, but JT's at 3 over right now. But that group that's say 5, 6, 7 shots off the lead. It's 5.5 hours into the tournament. What do we think? What do you think about those scores and where they stand at this point?
Yeah, it's very early. I don't think the guys who are going to pace the field in the morning are probably going to end up pacing the field the entire day. We might have a flash in the pan to somebody to come out this afternoon and take the lead. I'd be shocked to see it. If someone does do that this afternoon, they have an incredible opportunity to run away and hide, because if they took the lead this afternoon, they could turn right around in the morning, calmer conditions, and go really build a good lead. I think looking at it right now, Colin Morikawa's 3 under through 11. I could see him getting to 5 under and being our leader at the end of the day. So
to drop a shot. I'm waiting to post it until it actually happens. He's on 3. He chipped from one side of the green, rolled it off the front of the green, and he's about to get up and down for bogey.
Okay. And shout out to number 3. All of the volunteers on the 3rd hole are proud Stono Ferry members this week. So if you go out and you're on number 3, make sure to say hello to our guys and gals out there. But no, I think those guys, as long as you stay within earshot, 5, 6 shots on the PGA Tour is really nothing. You just want to stay within earshot so that A, that you make the cut, but B, that you have a chance to make a move, because we are going to see some guys fall and we're going to see some guys make a charge. So the likes of Xander, JT, Rory, just make sure to get it in the house. Try to give yourself opportunities on your remaining holes and regroup, figure out what's wrong, and fix it tomorrow.
And those last 5 holes are not easy.
True.
When you got a 240-yard par 3 over water into the wind. Is it into the wind today?
Yes, into the wind.
So it's not. It's so early. It's tough to say.
Yeah, I mean, those last 5 holes are just dangerous. If you feel really good about yourself halfway through the back 9, check that at the front door, right? Because it could change in a hurry there. All right, we're going to let you run on that note. We will welcome you back in about 30 minutes or so. We'll look at a lot of these afternoon groups and what we expect out of some of those guys. And we'll kind of recap some of the rounds that have been finished in the morning. Some of these names, major names, will be in the clubhouse at that point in time, and we'll start to get some feedback from what they feel they did today out there at the PGA Championship, which is where Scott and Meredith are joining us here. Scott Glaze, Meredith Taylor is part of our coverage here on the JB and Goldwater Show. Y'all go get some water and a beer. $16. Hope somebody brought a credit card.
Oh yeah, they're cash only. It's all credit card.
Yeah. Well, whatever. $96 for 6 beers sounds very pleasant to me. So we'll catch up with you here in just a moment. Okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Meredith Taylor, star golfer at the University of South Carolina. Scott Glaze, star golfer himself, also tour pro. At Stono Ferry. We were lucky enough 2 years ago, Darren, to put this team together, and since then I've been doing business with them ever since, and they are as good as it gets. They're so much fun. So is Cory McCartney. So were the Braves last night, and there was a no-hitter in baseball. Oh yeah, and Ohtani's the greatest player to ever play the game since Babe Ruth, at least. And the Braves have a lot of injuries, so some things to get to in baseball. We do have Drew Meyer in the 1 o'clock hour today as well. Huge weekend for the Gamecocks. The rest of the state will be playing baseball starting today. The Citadel is already on the field, so there is plenty to get to, plus continued coverage of the 2021 PGA Championship. Hang tight. The JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen, We'll be right back.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every new Volkswagen available with zero down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Remember, Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road is the fastest, easiest way to sell your car and get the most money for your trade. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump? If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save on a new Volkswagen, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$1,666 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with zero down. Plus tax tag. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to DCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Shrimping season's back. That means local caught shrimp. That's right. Local caught shrimp back on the menu at the Dog and Duck. All three locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road, now featuring once again local caught hand-breaded shrimp, plus other daily specials like the Game Day Burger every Wednesday, Rib Night on Friday, rotating taps all the time, and all the TVs you can possibly imagine for whatever you want to watch. The Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
You are listening to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online.
All right. 12:37, May the 20th, day one of the PGA Championship here in the low country of South Carolina. But we'll take a quick time out from the golf course and get on to the diamond, and we'll fly west to Atlanta, Georgia. That's where we find one of our favorite friends, Mr. Cory McCartney. Hey, man.
The only green that matters, man, baseball field.
Well, I'll at least give you this. I'll have the Nationals game on another screen when they do play it too, because that is a problem for me today. But I'll make it work.
Okay.
Yeah. There you go. Nats guy. The Colin Morikawa did drop that shot, by the way, so he's at 200. I know that Cory was looking for that update. Ronald Acuna Jr. also hit a walk-off home run last night. It didn't click. That was his first career walk-off home run.
Yeah.
I could have sworn he's done it 2 or 3 times, but I was wrong. Wow, what a moment for that young. He's not young anymore. He's still young, but he's not young in the game. What a moment for him.
Yeah, I mean, and he did the Vince Carter afterwards. It's over. Nonsense.
Yeah.
We'll see if it means the Braves' struggles are over. I think that's of much more importance. This is a team that just keeps looking for that spark, right? I mean, they tried Sage and they won a few games, and the Blue Jays knocked him back into reality. They won in 12 innings over the Phillies, with Sandoval, hitting that epic home run to send it to extras, and Adrianza getting the win. And then they go on another losing spurt. So we'll see. I mean, this is a team that just have been flat. I think that's the best way to equate it. They've just been a flat team. And we'll see if this is what finally wakes them up.
So who the hell's in the rotation? I mean, before we even get there, let me ask you this. So the Yanoa thing, he punches the bench, breaks his hand. There's no way what Brian Snicker said publicly is what Brian Snicker said privately. So do you know what Brian Snicker said privately?
I don't, because we don't have the same access we used to. We used to be able to hang out in the clubhouse and talk to guys and have those little side conversations, and they'd let you in on stuff like, when Sean Newcomb decided to take out some frustrations on a fire extinguisher, or, back in the day when they had a reliever who kicked open a door. I mean, you heard about all this stuff before, but these Zoom calls, you don't get that same information like we used to.
Well, That was that's a young youth stupid moment, and he'll learn from it because he probably didn't want to break his hand again. So Max Fried, he's these guys are out of the rotation. We know about Soroka. He's had surgery. Yep. I don't think we'll see him again this year, Corey. So what is the rotation for Atlanta right now?
Well, of course, you got Morton and Smiley, and then you're going to have Tucker Davidson get some more runs. It's just, I think it's going to be in flux. I mean, I think you're obviously going to have, Bryce Wilson, obviously, Ian Anderson is going to be a part of things, but I think you're going to see guys get spot starts. You're going to see Tucker Davidson. You're going to potentially see Tuki Toussaint. You're going to see, they might have to go with Josh Tomlin to start a game. It's just, there's not going to be anything solidified for a while, which, makes you wonder with that trade deadline out there. Do they do something? Do they feel like they need to do something? I just don't buy being able to keep this in house because you don't know if or when, as you said, Soroka's coming back in 2021. I would lean to him not coming back. But obviously we'll have to wait and see there. But not losing, the way that they did. I mean, that's a big blow considering the way that he was playing.
Well, Darren and I were talking about this yesterday. I mean, they don't have to wait until the trade deadline to make a move. First of all, do you think they'll make a move? Do you anticipate them trying to buy a big time arm for their rotation?
I don't think they will. Much as I think they need to, I don't. It's not. Going out and getting pitching in that way has not necessarily been, Alex Anthopoulos' MO. I mean, think about, he went out and got Kevin Gausman a couple of years ago, and that was kind of a low level buy. I think there's maybe some arms like that would be feasible, but I don't think you're going to see them go out and try to swing for the fences for any maneuver like that.
So it will just continue to be an organization type deal, a farm system type ordeal, and these guys, they'll play with their options and try to just float through this sucker.
Well, I think there's the belief that if you can get to the postseason and you have Max Fried and Ian Anderson and Charlie Morton, you feel really good about that situation. But it's trying to piece together those starts to get there. I mean, let's say they go out and make a maneuver, and let's say they bring in Johnny Cueto, or they look to just throwing out a random name. I mean, basically the whole Giants rotation is going to be free agents after this year. Let's say they bring back Alex Wood or someone along those lines. Sonny Gray from the Reds. I mean, what happens to that rotation come the postseason? I mean, if you're largely going to ride three arms in the postseason, who gets squeezed out of Max Fried, Charlie Morton, and Ian Anderson? So, I just don't know that there's enough of an onus to say, okay, we're not built for the postseason. But of course, the problem is you got to get there.
Well, do they have to? We were talking about the possibility, like he just mentioned, of look, do they have to wait? But also at the same time, right, the division with no one wanting to run away and hide, keeping everybody alive, it buys the Braves, it buys other teams in the NL East a little bit of time here, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you also think about the amount of teams that are somewhat in this stuff. I mean, the Reds, I mean, they could be sellers, but they're just 3 games below 500, so they're not necessarily out of it with the wild card. We talked about the Giants, an entire rotation of free agents. They're in first place. I mean, there's so many teams that you think, okay, while the NL East, you've got everybody within 4 games. The Mets to the Nationals within 4 games of one another. There's so many other teams that are still in this thing at this point in the season that you just feel like it's probably too early for teams to really get a gauge on that and who's going to be really willing to deal. I mean, the Tigers, maybe you could get Matthew Boyd from them. I can't imagine them moving Spencer Turnbull at this point. They've got a lot of obviously young arms. The Rangers, could still move on for Mike Minor. There's, a couple of options, but I think by and large, the fact that everyone of note is not necessarily completely out of this makes it difficult to deal.
Real quick update from the PGA Championship here on the Ocean Course. If you're not watching, then you can't see what Darren has on the screen for us, but 4 straight birdies for Martin Laird. He is now in the lead at 4 under as he heads to 17. Martin Laird will head to 17 and 18, 2 of the tougher holes on the course, but he just birdied that par 5 606 yarder at 16. So we'll keep our eyes on him. Well, what about all these guys that are throwing no hitters? Why can't they just sign one of those dudes?
Yeah, well, they tried to. There were a number of teams that tried to get Means from the Orioles, before the season, but they were unwilling to move on him. The Braves could have had Corey Kluber. They could have had Corey Kluber for the exact same money that they signed Drew Smiley for, and who knows if that would have been him pitching a no hitter for the Braves last night. So we're on pace for 20 no hitters this year. The record in the season is 8. I think it's pretty safe to say we're going to knock out 8 before the year's up, considering it's May 20th and we've already seen 6.
We're not getting 20 though. So here's Corey, if you go back, have you ever gone back and looked at all of the dates of when no hitters have been thrown for the last 150 years? Do you have time for that?
I was at one of them, but actually 2 of them. I was at one combined one and a single one, but no, I've not gone back and looked at the actual dates.
There's a lot of them. The large, when I say the large majority, don't misunderstand. I'm not saying 90% or anything like that, but an enormous chunk of them, better than 50 in the early part of the season. So, you have, but you know how it is. As you go on through the year, you see guys multiple times, hitters make adjustments, arms are fresh early, not as fresh late. But there's a caveat to that because, and again, something that Darren and I talked about yesterday, arms now are bigger, better than ever. And everybody, like Nolan Ryan would just be a dude today. He wouldn't be Nolan. He might be Nolan Ryan, but you know what I'm saying from a velocity standpoint. So it's hard to predict, but there we could moving forward. No hitters could be much more common in this sport than they had in years past.
Sure. And I mean, let's also think about the fact that it is May and, a lot of the bats have been struggling. We've talked about this many times. We don't know how much leeway arms are going to have as the season wears on, how many times a guy's going to be allowed to go into a lineup a third time. As innings build after last season's shortened schedule. So I think that's a factor too. But yeah, you're right. It's a guy gets locked in and he can throw, a changeup that's coming at, in the high 80s to low 90s. I mean, that's and offset that with a high 90s fastball. I mean, it's just, that's the reality of baseball now. Peter Moylan, former Braves arm, friend has told me, his fastball velocity now is what guys throw changeups at now. I mean, it's just a change game, and a guy gets locked in with that kind of stuff, and it's hard to beat.
To that point, the fastball that hit Pilar in the face, the ball that hit Harper in the face, as more guys are throwing harder and harder and having to throw inside to keep guys honest, what's our danger factor? What's the fear level right now for baseball that one of these will be much more serious than the seriousness of Pilar?
I'll tell you what, it was interesting being in on Jacob Webb's Zoom call the day after that. Kevin Pilar had one a little bit later, but it was weird the way that, you think about Jacob Webb's job is to throw a baseball. And if you throw a baseball inside, there are repercussions to throwing a baseball inside, especially if you miss. And obviously it doesn't happen all the time where a guy gets hit flush in the face like that. But it's a weird concept to think about making sure the pitcher is okay, that how long, he was flatly asked, how quickly do you want to get back on the mound? What about the guy that got hit in the face? I mean, that's the guy that, I don't discount that there's a psychological factor when you do that to somebody, but I just find it really weird. Like if you go out, to a shooting range and you shoot a weapon, things can happen. I mean, it's no different than when you're throwing a baseball that hard and you're trying to go inside. I mean, people kind of freaked out about Ronald Acuna Jr. getting hit a couple weeks ago on 2 consecutive after the second consecutive inside pitch. It's par for the course. Sorry for the pun with everything going on with you guys right now, but it's par for the course when you think about the fact that you're going inside. And it's just a weird concept to me that we're making sure the guy who threw the ball is okay. It's just, I don't know. It's just a weird concept when you think about it.
Well, Darren mentioned yesterday, and I didn't hear it, so you two fill me in on it, but he mentioned Smoltz and his comments about batter safety with how hard guys are throwing today. I mean, it's consistent 95 to 100, and whether that would play into decisions to, maybe move the mound back a tad or things like that. Well, where were those comments made? Can y'all fill me in on that? And does it make sense to you, Corey?
I believe
I did not.
It was either MLB Network or during a broadcast. I guess that would have been on MLB Network.
Okay. It was probably on he's on MLB Tonight quite a bit with Brian Kinney, so I would imagine it was probably on that show. But I think that the fact that guys are throwing so much harder and the control isn't always there on some of those offerings. You got to think there has to be something done to increase batter safety. Whether it's I don't know how you just get away from that aspect of it. I mean, is there some included penalty, if you throw multiple times inside on a guy like that. I mean, it's not like you can shrink the strike zone even further because you're still going to throw to keep a guy off the plate. So I don't know that there's really any answer to it, as opposed to just trying to basically axe that out of the game and start throwing people out for throwing inside on somebody, just as opposed you would, for throwing behind somebody a day after he's hit a home run on a 3-0 count.
Yeah, I mean, it's, and for the times that a kid or a guy gets hit when it's certainly not intentional, obviously it just slipped away or whatever the case may be. I mean, you wonder, like Darren, you were talking about Harper yesterday and the face guard he's got now. Who's going to be the first big leaguer that carries out one of those little league masks on their helmet? I mean, it could happen. I don't know if it will or won't, but these helmets that they wear, they've been wearing these things since like they started actually wearing helmets before they didn't wear helmets. And guys today are throwing, 15 miles an hour harder on average than those guys were. So maybe some of that changes a little bit.
Well, think about John Olerud, right? I mean, he wore the batting helmet on first base for years, and obviously that was an outlier after he had injuries, blows to the head. I mean, if a guy, let's say, you have a detached retina, or, you have some fracture or something along those lines, I mean, you can certainly see the cause for somebody to have a face mask in that way. I mean, obviously we've seen the growing, the Dansby Swanson wears it now. Giancarlo Stanton obviously has added the face guard to his mask.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see more and more guys. I mean, Mike Trout wears one. I don't know that Mike Trout's ever been hit flush in the face, but he has one on his helmet too. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen.
When are we going to see Mike Trout again?
Man, I tell you what, it's 2 months now is potentially what they're saying with that calf muscle injury. And you hate it for Shohei Ohtani, right? I mean, basically, Shohei Ohtani is now in the role that Mike Trout's been in the last few years, having an ultra productive season for an Angels team that can't do anything around him. So, a fourth place squad right now, and he continues to be fantastic. But you really hate this for the Angels, and obviously for Trout and baseball in general. Everybody wants this guy in the postseason. It just seems like constantly something keeps happening that stops it from being a reality.
I don't. I hope this. Well, it's going to come off bad, and oh well. I hate it for baseball because I just can't stand the fact that these two kids are playing in Anaheim. I mean, you okay? Everything good over there? Is there an earthquake in Atlanta?
Rain inside your house?
You okay, Corey?
So there we go.
Now we've lost his audio.
Yeah, he muted himself. So what happened is his earbuds died.
You guys got me? My AirPods died on me. So.
Oh, I thought there was an earthquake or something.
We were going to blame Apple. It's Apple's fault.
Yeah. It's okay. Yeah, I'm in on that. So I hate that Ohtani and Trout play in Anaheim. We never get to watch him play. That it's a big deal out on the West Coast, but you think about all the attention that Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton were getting just a couple of years ago when we pieced them together in the middle of that Yankees lineup. And I'm not saying that they'd have to play in New York to get the attention they need, but how much better for the sport of baseball it would be for them to be in what I think is an East Coast or a better market, or just in an East Coast market.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said this to you guys before. I mean, think about the height of Ortiz and Derek Jeter and how big those guys were in their markets and just collectively across the country. I mean, you're talking about a player in Trout who is this generation's Ken Griffey Jr., and you've got a guy in Ohtani, who could be the next big thing in baseball for a while. And you can, unless you have the MLB package, you're not watching them. It's sad for the sport, and certainly sad for, as we, as much as we harp on things like what happened in Chicago. I mean, you've got some great positive stuff that's happening with some really fantastic players, and guys just don't get to watch them.
No, I know. It really is sad, man. All right, let's wrap this thing up here in just a minute on Tony La Russa. Oh well. So Darren, what's your name? Corey. I didn't have a problem at all with him being frustrated with this guy for swinging through a take. If you've got the take and you don't listen to your manager, if you're the manager, you got to deal with that. I do have a problem with him publicizing those conversations in the media, and the conversation is kind of spin into, well, should you or shouldn't you be allowed to hit a 3-0 pitch? Well, okay, they were up 11 runs in the ninth inning against an infielder who was pitching, which I can't stand that anyways. But I don't care if you swing on 3-0, dude. It's hard enough to hit in the big leagues. All right, so if you hit one out on 3-0, you hit one out on 3-0. The only issue that I had anything with as far as the player was if he had the take on, you just went through the take, you can't do that. But your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think that certainly was an issue, and you can understand La Russa for being frustrated with him. I don't want to turn this into a unwritten rules thing, because I think at the baseline of it, this was a guy who his manager told him to do something and he didn't do it. I don't necessarily agree, though, that should I think it was completely fine that it happens. It's just you don't go against your manager's wishes. What I think was ridiculous was that Tony La Russa then went publicly with chastising him, and then the next day said that he didn't disagree with what the Twins did and throwing behind him. I think this is what we talked about before. There was the risk of him losing this clubhouse and being out of touch with the reality of baseball in 2021. What he never dealt with as a manager before was social media. Now he's got guys like Lance Lynn that can go out and say stuff. He's got guys that can go out and have an avenue to voice their opinions. And I think this is way beyond what he's been accustomed to. I think he's in real danger of losing this team. And we talked about before the miscues with the rules. Obviously he had his own problems before the season started, but this to me is like the reality of you losing a clubhouse and throwing your player under the bus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think the issues, in my opinion, never really matter until they become public, and it looks like you've got that divide, and then the divide will start. Every time, I swear it happens, Corey. It's really hard to sew that back up. So we'll see what happens moving forward. Do you think he makes it through the season as their manager in Chicago?
I think he does because of the relationship he has with Jerry Reisdorf, right?
Okay.
They're crazy. They're very tight. So I think he's going to get through it. I think if La Russa walks away, it's at his discretion, not the front office is deciding it's time for a change.
Yeah, but it's interesting because the White Sox are one of the better teams in baseball right now. And if this becomes a bigger problem, then Reinsdorf might have to do something about it to keep the train on the tracks.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost they're in spite of it, right? I mean, they're winning in spite of his miscues and his inability to communicate with this generation of players. I just hate that it became public and that this has turned into something that it shouldn't be, which is about unwritten rules and waving the white flag within a game and what you can and cannot do in those situations. But it could have been squelched if he just would have said, "This is an internal situation. We'll take care of it." I don't think we'd be having these conversations.
Totally agree. And I think we should all totally agree that TalkingChop.com is the best place on planet Earth to get all this crazy information you never knew existed about the Atlanta Braves. All these little stats with all these little letters, you don't know what they are. It doesn't matter because it's an interesting read. Corey, of course, is one of the great writers, and you should check it out, TalkingChop.com. All right, brother, we're going to let you run on that note. Hey, it's a great weekend, man. We got a great final weekend of college baseball across the country. We got the PGA, we got the Braves. They're going to get on a 7 or 8 game winning streak. So we're excited to talk to you again next week.
All right, guys, appreciate it.
See you, man.
Get my AirPods started, I promise.
Okay, we'll send you some if you need some.
All right, thanks, guys.
There you go, Cory McCartney, and what is turning into hot Atlanta. It's supposed to be in the mid-90s here next week, and in Columbia, South Carolina, it's supposed to be in the upper 90s. By the way, the SEC tournament is next weekend in Birmingham. If it's going to be in the upper 90s in Columbia, it's going to be 240 in Birmingham, and that means it'll be almost 300 degrees in Atlanta next week. So everybody prepare and take all of your clothes off and drink a lot of water. All right, we do need to hit a timeout. Our PGA Championship coverage continues. It is driven this week by Stokes Volkswagen. Maybe you want to drive yourself out there this weekend to Kiowa Island in a brand new SUV from Stokes. Head to stokesvw.com. You can find them there. They've got some sweet ones like the Atlas. Put the sunroof down. Head out. The beach. The wind is blowing. Well, all we've heard about is wind for the last 7 days, for God's sakes. Experience it for yourself. Roll the windows down. Take the sunroof back in a Stokes V-dub and right there onto the ocean course. But don't be like that crazy little guy who drove the bug onto the course in Happy Gilmore. That would not be good for anybody. Coastal Carolina is set to go against Texas State today. The Citadel is on the field right now, currently against Western Carolina, down 2-0 in the 4th inning of that ball game. CFC, they've got Elon being hosted at Patriots Point starting tonight in a 3-game set. Clemson hosts Duke, and of course, South Carolina, they are hosting Tennessee. CSU is at Longwood. They're the only team that's out of the state. of that group. I've got some really, really interesting numbers on the Gamecocks Vols series we're going to share with you with Drew Meyer in the bottom of the second hour. But hang tight. The National Anthem leads us off here on a Thursday afternoon coming up. And then Scott Glaze, Meredith Taylor, hop back in. We'll look at the afternoon rounds and some of the biggest and best golfers in the world, what they're doing out on the ocean course right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes, Volkswagen.
Mike Morgan here for Gamecock Traditions. Baseball is going strong. You'll want to look sharp when you cheer on your Gamecocks. Under Armour, New Era, sideline hats, all with interlocking SC Baseball logo. 18 styles of $10 tees exclusively at Gamecock Traditions. Get on that email list by going to the bottom of the page, enter your email, and always be the first to know about new items as they arrive. You can also add a little Gamecock flair with house signs, garden flags, interior and yard decorations, only at one place, Gamecock Traditions.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Bourbon and whiskey drinkers of Charleston. Paddock and Whiskey on James Island and the Terrace Shopping Center on Maybank is your home for the finest and rarest bourbon and whiskey drinks in the Lowcountry. This is where I hang out. Go meet my friends Reed and Chris and try one of their exclusive barrel pick bourbons. They have the largest private barrel collection in the state, and let their knowledgeable staff recommend your next pour. PaddockandWhiskey.com. Let not your heart be troubled. Paddock and Whiskey is here for your next double. We're all friends around here. Paddock and Whiskey, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the National Anthem.
Show. Live, loud, and online.
104 Power Hour on the JB and Goldwater Show, powered by Wando Power Equipment. If you want to make your lawn look like the ocean course, that's where you'll go to find yourself a Hustler zero-turn mower. Wando Power Equipment in the Lowcountry is located on Daniel Island, where they've been for over 30 years. Wando Power Equipment. You can rent anything, you can finance anything, and of course you can buy anything, and they come from everywhere to buy at Wando Power Equipment, wandopower.com, right here in Charleston, South Carolina. Darren, JB here until 2 o'clock. Thanks to Cory McCartney in that last segment. Of course, we led off our coverage of the 2021 PGA Championship at noon today with both Scott Glaze and Meredith Taylor. Before we get them back in, let me remind everybody, it is 100 days until college football kicks off, ladies and gentlemen. So as part of that, Darren and I will do our top 100 college football players of all time. There's no way I'll ever do enough research to do that. But we are 100 days away, so we're fired up, certainly, for college football. We're also fired up for the PGA Championship, and currently Martin Laird is in the lead at 4 under. He had 4 straight birdies to get him there, and now I also want to come through the screen and punch Darren right in the face for telling me to not put $50 on Brooks Koepka to win my 2,200, because Koepka's at 2 under through 14. Darren, I wouldn't really punch you in the face, but I want to so bad.
That's okay, because he'll fade. Like I just put up, Laird bogeys 17. He was well off in a sandy area, tied at the top with Bradley at 3 under now.
So he'll fade. That's your prediction, just like your prediction was he wouldn't even make the cut, but he's 2 shots off the lead.
I said he's more likely to miss the cut than even be in contention, and I stick to that.
You're wrong, because he's in contention.
No, it's not. He hasn't even played around.
He is in contention. He's 2 shots off the lead. Scott, Meredith, back me up here. If you're 2 shots off the lead in a tournament, you're in contention, right?
Well, I'll take Darren's side. It was a question mark coming in. If
he
was going to be 100% healthy. I mean, the same with DJ. Like, he had withdrawn because of his knee. I've had knee injuries, so I understand coming back too early can be problematic. So I'm with Darren. It was a question mark for me too.
Well, I gotta say, I watched him. No, it's not surprising to me. I was able to watch a good bit of Brooks earlier this week. Just it's the Ocean Course is a hard course to watch golf on. We got spoiled when we did this gig at the Women's Open in 2019, almost 2 years ago, almost to the week. But the way we were able to walk around the course there, and you could hop over to holes. Can't do that at the Ocean Course. It's a long stretch. It's 2.5 miles from the 14th tee box all the way to the 5th green. Those are the 2 ends of the course there. But I happened to, being on the course the last few days, I got to see a lot of Brooks Koepka, and he was hitting a lot of good shots. So not surprised. We'll see. I think it's not a hilly course to walk, but walking through the dunes and all that type of stuff might be tough on his knee for 4 days.
He's been walking around certain areas, right? So he's been noticeably uncomfortable on the knee. You mentioned when you were on with us before, he can't even squat down to read putts. Maybe it's benefiting him because he's made a couple.
Maybe that. I was just telling Meredith how poorly I've been putting. Maybe that's what I'm going to try. I'm going to just try read putts like in a Spider-Man pose.
Well, I mean, look, when you and this isn't just for Brooks Koepka, although at 2 under, he's now 1 shot off the lead because Laird has come back 1 there on that bogey at 17. But I mean, he's not putting himself behind the 8 ball. Of course, we all know. Yes, you are all right. I was giving Darren grief because I'm not a bettor, but I could have bet $50, and if he won, I would have won $2,200 and not shared it with anybody. But at the end of the day, he's not putting himself behind the 8 ball here, even with all that going on. We know it's going to be a challenge for him moving forward. I guess, is there some good news though, right? Like, he played the morning round, and then tomorrow he's going to play the afternoon round, so he's going to get a lot of rest.
Who is this? Oh, Brooks.
The Brooks Koepka guy.
That Brooks guy. I've heard of him.
Brooksy, as Tiger calls him. Brooksy.
Yeah, I tell you, he's a big game hunter, and he's. I don't think you can. As a member of the PGA, I don't think you can win this championship wearing hats that ugly. That's all that I'll say.
Let's talk
I
about
agree.
it.
I saw that. That was pretty brutal. There's no question about that. So there you go. Drive on the par 5 7th, far and in the fairway and in position, according to Darren Goldwater's expertise there. All right, so let's look at the afternoon here. All right, we've got coming up here in just a little bit some of the bigger names in golf. Tony Finau has just teed off with Corey Connors and Matt Fitzpatrick. 2002 PGA Championship winner. Rich Beam just went off at 12:58. Everybody remembers that weird little dance he did, but it was cool. Phil Mickelson at 114 today with Jason Day and Padraig Harrington. Patrick Reed is going to go at 125 with Tommy Fleetwood. Some say keep an eye on Fleetwood this week. John Rahm also in that group. Rose, Gary Woodland, and Cameron Smith at 136. By the way, all of these are off of the 10th tee box this afternoon. Steve Stricker, Daniel Berger, Billy Horschel at 147. And then there's Spieth at 158 with Zalatoris, who knows the course, and Webb Simpson. DJ's at 209. I'm going to stop there. We'll finish with a couple other guys in a minute. I know I just listed a lot of golfers, but y'all know who you're looking at anyways. Of these afternoon rounds, some of the bigger names, Spieth, now Zalatoris, Patrick Reed, Fleetwood. What are we most interested in watching with some of these guys? Start with you, Scott.
Well, I'll tell you who I'm interested in, and I really tried to hedge my my picks for this week so that I can maybe sound smart. I got more chances to sound smart. My dark horse this week, who I believe is playing this afternoon, he is at 136, is Cameron Smith. Cameron Smith, he's won this year, was in the team event with Mark Leishman. His best finish in a PGA Championship is only 25th. That was back in 2015. However, he is Australian. He's grown up playing in breezy conditions, playing similar type grasses, and having to play these similar shots around the greens. On top of that, his strokes gained putting and short game and his strokes saved has been very good the past year and a half. So I think he could be a dark horse. Would not be surprised at all to see it was Will Zalatoris. He in his 2 major championship starts, U.S. Open, he finished 6th, and then he just finished runner-up at the Masters. He's only 24 years old. He has got an immense amount of swagger, and it does not seem like there is a stage that is too big for him. And, last year coming down the stretch, I did not think that Colin Morikawa was going to be able to pull it out just because I didn't think that he was ready for it. Thought, maybe a little too young, still too green. He proved me wrong there, so I would not be surprised if somebody like Will Zalatoris, who in the past we've thought, hey, he's too young. He's not ready yet. He's got to really cut his teeth. I would not be surprised if he came out, especially with his length and accuracy and won. But my pick this week and also going off this afternoon is John Rahm. He has got his last 12 majors. He's got 6 top 10s. He's coming off a top 5 finish at the Masters after shooting 66 on Sunday. The guy is just so good, and it's just a matter of time before he is going to win a major and probably win a lot of majors. He hits the ball straight. He can keep it on the planet, and he can control his ball flight, and that's what you need playing in the wind. Everybody drink. We mentioned wind again. And he's a good putter, but he's just a good enough putter to take advantage of these greens. He's not going to really have to putt the eyes out of it. So that's who I'm interested in watching. And of course, Dustin Johnson, our hometown hero, so to speak. So some great names going off this afternoon.
Yeah, DJ's also always going to be a fan favorite around here.
Oh, yeah, no question. I mean, it's hard to believe that the large majority of folks out there, Meredith, aren't pulling for DJ. I'm sure he'll have that Gamecock book in his back pocket today. He carries that around quite often, which is one of the things that makes him successful, of course. Darren, if you don't mind, put that graphic back up on the screen here. This is our post-up careers wind resume for the 2021 PGA Championship. All right, so today, tomorrow, maybe in this Saturday, we'll start to see these things shift around a little bit. We talked about this earlier. Right now, east winds. Walk us through, both of you, and y'all can pat each other on the back as to who's going to start here. But walk us through the course, around the course, and how the winds affect the holes differently for those that may not understand the ocean course that well.
Well, fortunately for both of us, we both have experience playing golf here. I have shot more rounds above par than I have under par at the ocean course. I think that goes for a lot of people who've played the golf course. It is so difficult. Been able to play it in a lot of different winds. I've played it when it's been 32 degrees. I've played it when it's been 102 degrees.
Scott,
Yeah, I played it.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah,
32
so
and windy. Nothing.
Yeah, with one of our members every year there's a tournament on Martin Luther King Day it's the Feed the Need tournament, and it just so happens that just about every year it's right about freezing, and that's miserable, but still fun and for a good cause. But the east winds that we have, you're going to play the first 4 holes into the wind. You're going to play 5, which is a par 3 crosswind, and then you're going to go downwind 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, which is a meaty stretch of holes, but you do get to play them downwind. You then turn to come back home to the clubhouse, and then you're going to play 14 through 18, another very meaty stretch into the wind. I think, and I think Meredith concurs with me, I actually think the wind that we're going to have on Sunday is a tougher wind when it comes out of the west, because you play 6 through 13 into the wind, and talk about a mental grind where you're playing a tough stretch of golf holes where every single shot you're into the wind. And for those that don't know, into the wind is so much tougher than downwind, not only because of the decrease in distance, but because all of your misses are heightened. The spin on the ball is increased when you go into the wind, and that if you hit a big slice, it's going to be just magnified, and it's going to slice even more. So, yeah, I don't know, Meredith. What do you think?
I was on 107.5 the game yesterday, and Jay asked me, he's like, "So, what was your best score?" I said, "Don't ask me that because you'll think less of me." The ocean course will eat you up. Especially if you've got a high ball flight. So making sure you get the right trajectory with these into the wind, downwind, it can get ugly very quickly.
Yes, very quickly. My best round at the ocean course, I shot 69 one time, and it was a grind. I was grinding my face off to shoot 69. So I think that shows you how good these guys are that are playing, because we're going to have several 69s on the board. We've got 25 guys under par. It is morning, and we have some calmer conditions than what we're starting to get. The wind's starting to pick up here, as you can see by things blowing around us. But man, it's tough. That's part of the genius of Pete Dye, though, is that he designed a golf course that can play just as brutal in any type of wind. There's not an easy wind out here. Both of us say we think it's easier with the current wind that they have, but it's not. It's still a very, very difficult golf course. The scoring average already, I saw earlier, is about 73.5, and we are early into this thing.
Our team consists of Meredith Taylor, Scott Glaze, Darren Goldwater, Jamie Bradford here until 2 o'clock this afternoon as part of the JB and Goldwater show's coverage of the 2021 PGA Championship. Scott mentioned 25 players under par. Just 2, though, are in the lead. Martin Laird, Keegan Bradley tied at 3 under. So some of these scores are dropping as the afternoon has kind of turned its face over at us here in round 1 of the PGA Championship. All right, so let me run down a couple of course stats to give everybody as well. Scott mentioned this earlier. I mean, it is just brutal down the stretch right now. Every hole from 12 through 18 is over par. There are now 3 holes, though, that are playing under par, but one by the skin of its teeth, and that's 6 barely. You're talking about 7. You're talking about 11 for birdies. As a matter of fact, it combined 77 birdies between those 2 holes today, which, believe it or not, pretty much adds up to every other hole on the course. It's pretty amazing out there. Let's talk about Dustin Johnson. He is the hometown kid. I know that he has certainly got some flash throughout the week because he's the Palmetto State's golf hero right now. Both of you have spent time with DJ throughout his career. Number one, I don't know how often DJ has played or does play the Ocean course. By the way, quick note to both of you, a few weeks ago, Justin Timberlake was playing the Ocean Course, just as an FYI. But I don't know how often he plays the Ocean Course, but based on his game, based on the game he has had here in 2021, how do you think he'll play this weekend?
I think he's going to play well. He's finished runner-up in back-to-back. That was the stat I was just looking up there. He's finished runner-up in back-to-back PGA Championships. First person to do that since Jack Nicklaus did it in 1964 and 65. We forget that 2 years ago he finished runner-up to Brooks Koepka. Brooks kind of ran away from the field at Bethpage, but DJ was stalking him down on Sunday there. And Brooks almost blew that big lead. Last year, DJ entered the final round at Harding Park with the lead and really did not play poorly. He just got outplayed by Colin Morikawa. So I think the PGA Championship always goes – actually, let's be honest, there are not many venues that don't suit Dustin Johnson. He's got an all-around game. He can play anywhere. He's got the personality to where nothing's going to intimidate him. Nothing certainly is going to scare him. And he's up for the challenge. So I think flying in under the radar could be good for him because he's had some over the last 2, 3, 4 years, he's arguably been the best player in the game. I mean, he is the number one player in the world. So the stats don't lie. But I think there has been a lot of pressure put on DJ in some events the last few years. So the fact that there's not as much pressure on him could be good for him to just kind of go out there and swing a little freely and get out to a good start.
Have you seen him? Have you seen him around the last couple of days? Because he didn't play last week because of what he said was a knee injury to get that right, which probably means just getting his game right for this. How does he look?
I have not. Have you seen any of him?
I haven't seen him the past couple days, but from looking at all the media members who were out there watching him, he looks like he's in great form. And again, like he has all the tools to be successful here. Long bomber, very accurate. We were talking about Bryson the other day as he didn't play well at Augusta because he wasn't accurate. I mean, it's one thing to hit the ball 300 and something yards, but you got to be accurate out here. And he's number one player in the world for a reason. So yeah, being in this area, hometown guy that knows this course really well, I would expect him to do well.
Yeah, I would too. DJ, talking about being accurate, he's one of the only guys. There are only a handful of guys that can routinely hit the ball about 320 on a frozen rope. There's not a lot of movement to that. I actually would say, even though I've not yet seen a lot of DJ this week, just only a couple shots here or there, I would say he is in good form. He's in major championship form because he had some laughable quotes in his press conference. He doesn't even know what type of putter he's using. He just knows that it's a TaylorMade. Pretty on brand for Dustin. So I would say he's in good form.
Well, so is Bryson DeChambeau because just a little, or no, I'm sorry, I was looking at a highlight for earlier, that putt that he made from off of the green. I was thinking that just happened, but he did bogey those 4 in a row, 13, 14, 15, 16 to knock him down a little bit. Bryson has 2 holes left, I believe. Darren, isn't he through?
Yeah, he's on 17, but they started on the back, so he's on 8.
Okay, and he's 2 over. You mentioned the power of Dustin Johnson, Scott, and obviously we all know the power that Bryson has. So, look, I don't think that 2 over is a bad number. I mean, he's 5 shots off the lead. I mean, this with the way that things are going out there, you never know, right? But what have you seen out of Bryson DeChambeau? Obviously, he's at 2 over. Matsuyama's at 2 over. Rory's at 2 over today. Some of the big names are kind of right there in the thick of it. But DeChambeau is this polarizing big bomber that everybody wants to talk about literally in every tournament. And we all knew what he would have to deal with in this tournament. We've talked about those sandy areas. They can be incredibly challenging if you find your way into those things. Both of you, your thoughts on Bryson DeChambeau, what you've seen out of him and what you expect to see out of him moving forward.
Well, I got to see DeChambeau for the first time in person on Monday, and he was on the driving range doing his kind of typical antics. But like Meredith mentioned earlier, the driving range has been into the wind all week. DeChambeau, they've got a large screen right at the driving range, jumbotron there, that's got the shot tracer for all of these guys on the range, and they will put up the notable guys that are up there. They'll put up their stats, so their ball speed and their carry distance, which you see in the broadcast as well. So DeChambeau was hitting drivers with anywhere from 190 to 195 ball speed, which is very, very fast. I myself, my ball speed, if it gets high 170s, I'm pleased. So, I mean, he's cranking it out there a lot faster than a lot of people. With that ball speed, the ball should be carrying well over 300 yards. However, it was only carrying about 265, 270 yards into the wind. What I noticed in person is that DeChambeau, I've known that he's hit the ball high, just following him on TV. He hits the ball very, very high. And as I talked about earlier, into the wind, there's a lot that can go wrong once that ball's in the air. So I don't think that this is a good setup for DeChambeau, because if you do miss dramatically, you can be in some rough spots. It's a little different when we saw him win at Wingfoot. He could miss and muscle it out of really, really thick rough. I think it's more difficult to play out of a sand dune than it is to play out of thick rough if you've got Popeye forearms to be able to get them out.
Quick update here: Brooks Koepka is tied for the lead at 3 under par. He has birdied, I believe that is 16, right?
7. They started on the back, so he birdied the par 5 7th and almost eagled it for the solo lead. Just dripped off to the left.
So beware of the injured golfer.
$50. What the hell was I thinking? Yeah, I mean, if Tiger Woods can win the Masters in 2019, Brooks Koepka, I think, might have a shot to this weekend. Final couple questions before we let y'all go. Give me a name, both of you. Somebody that is off the radar. We've been talking about all the big names in the sport leading into this event, but there are other names out there. I mean, obviously Cam Tringali is somebody that people are talking about. He got off to a really good start this morning, had to kind of hang in there, did drop a couple of shots, but he's still at 2 under. There's some other interesting names. Tom Lewis. How about this, Scotty? Stuart Sink is back in it. He's at 2 under. He loves the Palmetto State. Give us a couple off the radar names.
Talk about a resurgence in a career right there with Stuart Sink. He's won twice on the PGA Tour this year. More than anybody else. Bryson DeChambeau technically has. Let's see. Here's an interesting stat since Keegan Bradley is still up there. The last 36 major champions have been ranked 50th or better in the official world golf rankings. The last major winner to be ranked outside of the top 50 in the official world golf rankings was Keegan Bradley when he won the 2011 PGA at Atlanta Athletic Club, and that was his first victory on tour. So interesting that Keegan is tied for the lead. I would say he's off the radar, and is somebody that if he can hold on, if he can hang around, he would come full circle to break that trend of major winners, because he's currently ranked 78th in the world. Tangential to that stat is that 15 of the last 16 major champions have been in the top 25. So golf is in such a good state right now that we are getting a lot of good players, and we haven't had a quote unquote off the radar winner in such a long time. Who do you have, Meredith?
That's what's going to make this so fun. Having 99 of the top 100, it is anybody's time to have a good week. They're all world class. I mean, you look at even Daniel Berger, who's been playing really well. Nobody's talking about him, but he could have a great week. It being, I'm looking at all the great ball strikers. We talk about it being a second shot golf course. Those that are great iron players, like Xander Schauffele. Colin Morikawa.
Here's a name for you.
He's just moved into tied for the lead at 300.
And he's coming off of back-to-back consecutive T3s. So he's got momentum coming in here as well.
Here's an off-the-radar name for you. Garrick Higgo. He is from South South Africa. He is a lefty. And if he walked right by us right now, I don't even know if I'd recognize him, and I still know who the guy is. He has won 2 of the last 3 events on the European Tour, and did so by going insanely low. Both events, he was more than 25 under par, I believe, and won by multiple shots each time. So he's a guy that's coming in. Talk about under the radar. I think he knows that nobody knows who he is. Right. So he's kind of playing with house money right now. I think he's in the house. I had him highlighted. I think he shot 1 over today.
I was also going to say Max Houma, because he won at Quail Hollow last year, which is another beast of a golf course. And he also, fun fact, has bones on his bag this week, which I think is fascinating. When bones goes on the bag, it's like my antenna goes up like, uh-oh, that might be
right.
That might be a good little dark horse right there.
Jim Bones Mackay. That's Phil Mickelson's former caddy for a long, long time, up until the last couple of years.
Can you imagine having him come on the bag? I mean, you automatically have this confidence about you and swagger. Like,
I think I'd start putting a little better if I had him helping me out.
He's been doing media stuff. He's been out there covering the events,
and he's so good at that too.
Yeah, very similar to the both of you. You mentioned Keegan Bradley winning the 2011 PGA Championship. Keegan Bradley defeated the Duff Daddy, Jason Dufner, in the playoff to win that one. 2 years later, Duff Daddy turned around and won his own PGA Championship. He's at 1 under today. His round is through. What about the Duff Daddy of them all, Jason Dufner?
I mean, I would I love the Duff Daddy, but I don't think this golf course suits up well for him. He won his PGA Championship at Oak Hill, which is a much different golf course than the Ocean course here. Now, to Duffner's credit, he has fallen off in the last few years, but during his prime, so to speak, when he won his PGA Championship and was contending, winning a lot on tour, there were a lot of comparisons drawn with his golf swing to Ben Hogan, and Ben Hogan's one of the best ball strikers of all time. So we have talked a lot, A, about the wind, but B, about being a great ball striker in order to win here and being able to control your golf ball. So, hey, Duff Daddy might surprise me, might hang around.
And good for him for taking advantage of being early and posting that score like we were discussing earlier.
Yeah, I mean, that was you both answered my question. That my follow-up question to mentioning Jason Dufner was how much or what outweighs what, experience in a particular championship versus the course itself. I know that mentally, if you've won this event before, you do have a leg up. But at the same time, you just mentioned Oak Hill versus Kiowa. I mean, it's night and day. I mean, it's just like playing football and baseball. There's two totally different sports. It's just it'll be interesting to watch all this unfold. Let me real quick run down the leaderboard one more time. 3 tied at the top. Martin Laird has just dropped down to 2 under, but Victor Hovland, Keegan Bradley, and Brooks Koepka all share it at 3 under. Their rounds are almost finished, and at the very bottom of the leaderboard, John Daly went ahead and bogeyed 3 more times for us since the last score daily update, and he is at 13 over, 3 shots below Cameron Champ, who is at 10 over.
Here's another name for you that is a definite dark horse, not a household name. Taylor Gooch. He's tied for 9th. He's at 1 under. That name sticks out to me. A, he's a very consistent player. He makes a lot of cuts. B, a PGA Championship is where it has the most parity, I think, of any other major championship, and you can have someone like that to compete. Last thing, and it's also, me being partial to Oklahoma City. He is from Oklahoma City, played golf at Oklahoma State. So that is a place where the wind really blows, is out there in the Midwest in Oklahoma. So he has grown up playing golf in the wind. So that's something that's not going to intimidate him, regardless of what draw he has and regardless of when he's playing. And I think that could really pay dividends this weekend.
I knew 2 years ago when I thought, and I'm being a little selfish here and patting myself on the back. Well, let's put Meredith and Scott together. They'll be pretty good at this golf coverage thing. We were right on the money. Started this off with the U.S. Women's Open, and here we are 2 years later covering the PGA Championship. Can't all be in the same room together this time, but that's okay. I still insist both of you need to start the Glaze and Taylor on Golf podcast or something like that. Seriously.
Yeah, we got to come up with a good name.
Well, I was thinking keep it in the short grass is your
that's true. That's true.
Exactly.
The Short Grass Podcast.
Darren, what do you think?
It makes perfect sense because we need more podcasts in the world. So start up another podcast and keep it in the short grass.
I think you would own the South Carolina golf market, and we will help you do it. I promise you, we'll help do it. We're going to talk about that, but we're going to talk to you tomorrow as well. Round 2 will kick off at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Both of you will be joining us at 12:05. Once again, when we start our afternoon coverage of the 2021 PGA Championship, we know that you have other obligations throughout the afternoon. So on that note, we're going to let you go get one of those $16 beers and get rehydrated. Meredith, Scott, thank you so much. There's the menu. How about that? Water's only $6. And
where in the world can you get a cocktail for less than a beer? That's what I noticed on this picture when y'all put it up yesterday.
Not far from where you are. So
that is where you can get it. Yeah.
That is what makes the Ocean Course so grand. You save $2 on liquor versus beer, right? I'm telling you. Y'all come by the house afterwards. I'll give it to you for free.
There you go.
Scott and Meredith, thank you so much. You certainly make Darren and I look better than we are, and you make us sound way better than we are with your expertise in professional golf. We'll talk to you tomorrow, okay?
Sounds great.
Thanks, guys. We'll see y'all.
Former game.
Oh, my bad.
You
go shut off.
Former Gamecock All-Star Meredith Taylor and golf pro Scott Glaze at Stono Ferry, live from Kiowa.
And if you want any help furthering your career, changing your career, Franklin Buchanan, who's a Gamecock at heart, this is all he does now. He specializes in LinkedIn optimization. He specializes in resume reconstruction, if you will. He's helped a lot of people take the next step in their current profession or switch professions, which is something that's happening often right now. Post Up Careers brings you the wind resume of the Ocean Course that we've been talking about all day.
If you happen to be listening to us, maybe while you're on the course or you're headed out that way and you're going to come through West Ashley, it is buy one, get one half off foot-long cheesesteaks at DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. Thursdays, that's when they offer that buy one, get one half off deal. You got to get the foot-long. Don't forget the boardwalk fries. They come with the Old Bay seasoning, and I would suggest all of you try my favorite. That's the buffalo chicken cheesesteak at DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley and Avondale. If you're looking for a quick place to eat, as Amanda Balionis was on Tuesday here in the Low Country, just stop in. Order online as well. If you live in the area, they'll deliver it to your doorstep. DB's Cheesesteaks voted twice now in a row the top cheesesteak, tastiest cheesesteak that we've got to serve here in the Low Country of South Carolina. Also, if you happen to be in town and you just are listening to us, you've come across us, you're watching us, and you're going to be here, going out and watching some golf, and hey, what else can I do? Head to Patriots Point, man. Check them out. If you haven't taken the family over to Patriots Point, get some tickets, patriotspoint.org, and have a drink with our friends over at Paddock and Whiskey on James Island. When I say this so truthfully because it is the truth. They have the largest and most unique selection of bourbon in the entire state of South Carolina. Google it. Paddock and Whiskey on James Island, 20 minutes from the Ocean Course. So make sure that you check them out there as some of our partners here on our program. All right, we do need to hit our final timeout of the afternoon. We will finish on some baseball. Tonight, the Gamecocks and the Volunteers are set to go. Carolina, win 2. Hosting a regional is very possible. Drew Meyer, former All-American with the Gamecocks, joins us next right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
This is Mike Naval for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every new Volkswagen available with zero down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Remember, Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road is the fastest, easiest way to sell your car and get the most money for your trade. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump?
Strike two.
If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save on a new Volkswagen, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$1,666 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with zero down. Plus tax tag. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to DCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes Speed Up.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Shrimping season's back. That means local caught shrimp. That's right. Local caught shrimp back on the menu at the Dog and Duck. All three locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road, now featuring once again local caught hand-breaded shrimp, plus other daily specials like the Game Day Burger every Wednesday, Rib Night on Friday, rotating tabs all the time, and all the TVs you can possibly imagine for whatever you want to watch. The Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
Electricity here in Columbia, well, has been buzzing loudly all weekend.
Sit back and enjoy, everybody. Here come the Gamecocks. The rain breaks out in Columbia. And they're all sorts of riled up here in the Palmetto State.
Quick slam grab, that's Devo at the 50, 40, give him a stiff arm at the 30.
100 days from Carolina football, as you hear Todd Ellis, amongst others, bringing us back at 1:40 on this Thursday afternoon, the JB and Goldwater show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. But we are about 5 hours and 19 minutes from Carolina baseball. The Vols and the Gamecocks throwing the first pitch tonight at Founders Park in a very important series. Tennessee looking to be a top 8 national seed. If you win your regional, that gives you a super regional. Gamecocks looking to be a national seed and will go a long ways to beat Tennessee this weekend. Matter of fact, they've done that a lot in Columbia, South Carolina since 2008. The Gamecocks are 19-2 versus Tennessee in Columbia since that season. They have not lost a series against the Vols and since 2006. Of course, that took place at the Sarge. I've got a gut feeling this is going to be a fun series for the Meyer family. Drew's wife Christy is from the Knoxville area, and so she's a Gamecock most of the time, but she might not be this weekend. Former All-American Drew Meyer. Hey, man.
Hey, Jamie, how's it going? It's been a while.
It's been too long. It's been way too long. I was thinking about you today. I thought, should we bring Drew on for baseball coverage or golf coverage?
Both.
I'll be honest. I could have listened to that golf coverage all day. I haven't been able to chance to watch any of it yet. We've been tied up, but yeah, looking forward to seeing what's going on at Kiowa. I had tickets. I had bought like 21 tickets when they first came out, and I was like Group 1A. And then of course I got the notification that none of my tickets were held due to the restrictions. So combine that with, we've got a baseball tournament Saturday and Sunday, and I just don't know if I'm gonna be able to get out there tomorrow. So looks like watching it from the TV will do for me.
Well, I'll tell you, first of all, I appreciate you saying that. It was Scott and Meredith that made all of that, but the TV coverage has been special. So it's not a bad place to watch it, even though we all wish we could kind of be out there roaming the course freely like normal. But Drew, tonight at Founders Park, the Gamecocks, they've got they start a huge series. It's the final series of the year, the final 3 games of the regular season. Carolina's 32-18. Tennessee is 40-13. You probably heard me mention a moment ago, the Vols have not had much luck, none, as a matter of fact, in 13 years in Columbia. But this team is probably better than all those other ones that have been coming to town. They've gone through their fair share of struggles, but they're pretty darn good. Gamecocks were really good last weekend. They swept Kentucky. They beat App State 2-0. 2 of their last 3 wins have been shutouts via the pitching staff, Drew. So this is a very intriguing matchup for a lot of different reasons, but maybe Carolina's playing their best baseball.
Yeah, you always look at just the various things going on that what could affect this series. And well, before I get to that, I'll even throw in we swept Tennessee in 2000 to finish off that year to go 50-6. So I don't know, maybe last weekend of the year against Tennessee at home is something good for us. But
good omen.
Tennessee, just looking at the conference standings, I mean, they had obviously a huge weekend last weekend against Arkansas. Ended up losing 2 of 3, and now they're 1 game back from winning the SEC title. Is that a letdown for them? If they win that series, are they on big momentum and they can taste the championship and they come in here hot? Or is it like, all right, it's gonna be tough for us to win the SEC. It looks like our fate sealed probably even as a top 8. And you got to go on the road. I don't know. So maybe we can catch them with that. One thing that sticks out to me just looking at their stats is it looks like they're going to run on the base pass. I mean, they've got, twice as many stolen bases as us this year. Not that we steal a lot by any stretch of the imagination, but it does tell you that they're going to run. And it's not just one guy that racked up a bunch. It's up and down the lineup of where they put pressure and their offense gets going and they get guys on early. Hopefully we can rely on the hose from Colin Burgess to kind of put out that fire early and maybe shut that down for the weekend.
That is certainly a stat that sticks out. 64 of 81 on the base pass are the Vols at swiping them. And Burgess, and not just Burgess, Drew, as you know, that staff is going to have to pay attention and do a lot to try to hold those guys at bay. Let's talk about the staff. It's a little different, and it was much different last week. And this is something we've kind of hinted at for a while around here that we thought we might see, and we saw it. Brett Carey moved into the rotation, and Drew, he threw the best outing I've seen from a Gamecock pitcher in quite some time, no doubt, with that shutout up there in Lexington. Different challenge this weekend, as you mentioned, with the Vols, but he is back home, and he is still going to go in Game 2, which this week will be on Friday. So your assessment of now the starting rotation, Jordan, Carey, Thomas Farr going in Game 3.
I like it a lot. I mean, I think the move to put Carey in as the starter was a tough one because you could just think of so many big moments he's had out of the pen, and not only this year, but his career. I mean, I remember calling a game against Clemson at Doug Kingsmore Stadium when he was a freshman, and he struck out the side. I mean, it was about as intense atmosphere as you can get, game on the line. And I remember saying that day, I said, this guy is a stud. And he has done everything that they have asked him to do. I heard Coach Kingston's interview last night just saying he stays out of trouble. I mean, he's the guy you want on your team. And so certainly this weekend's not season on the line type. I think even if we get swept, obviously we're in the regionals, but they're fighting for something as far as hosting the regionals. And you can see on Twitter that these players are pumped. Just even the thought of a sold out crowd just gets their juices flowing. So they're going to get obviously a big taste of it right away tonight and tomorrow night. And hopefully they can win and get into Saturday and go, hey, if we can either win 2 of 3 or sweep Tennessee, we get to do this again in about 2.5 weeks with hosting a regional. And the Carolina fans, they're rowdy roosters, apparently, as they call themselves. I'll give them 2 weeks to get geared up and really excited about some postseason baseball back in Columbia. But it all starts tonight with Jordan, and his outing last week. They got the win, but it wasn't a perfect outing. Gave up some hits, walked some guys, got through his 5. But I think the big key for Carolina is, as much as the pitching, obviously that's the key. That's a big strong point for us that we need to win. But the offense is going to have to do something creative and put up some crooked numbers on there. I think Tennessee's offense is going to score. Should be a beautiful weekend weather-wise, so I imagine the ball will fly. They both have about the same amount of home runs. A little bit different story, though. We've got 4 guys in double digits and 1 with 20, and they've only got 2 in double digits with a high of 13. So it really tells you a little bit more about an overall the team, maybe more power up and down and a little more speed with stealing the bases. So, it's going to be an interesting matchup and should have a lot of eyeballs on it for a lot of reasons from the national folk as far as maybe a national seeding or hosting for Carolina. So it'd be a good weekend to perform.
Make sure you're insured. If you're not, Meyer Insurance Group can do that for you. Drew, of course, is the owner. We'll give him a quick free plug there. Drew will send the bill in the mail.
Thank you.
You mentioned the walks with Brandon Jordan. I think that's what personally scares me the most tonight, because you couple that with Tennessee's ability to steal bases. You put guys on, they run, they're in scoring position, and then Punch and Judy's, that happens. You lose the game because of walks. That's how Tennessee can beat you. And so Jordan's got to be better there.
Yeah, and as much as I said the players are excited, let's watch Brandon Jordan throwing in front of possibly, most fans he's seen all year and probably in a long while. I don't know what he's seen in his career, if you know what I mean. So this may be the biggest game in the stadium that he's ever pitched in his life, with eyes and just, how it's going to be, man. Everybody, I mean, it's so funny how we talk about these conversations about these masks. And I'm like, man, I went to a Myrtle Beach trip, a golf trip about a month ago, and I haven't worn a mask since,
Right.
But, you go to Costco, the Whole Foods. I'm like, until someone tells me to put it on, I'm going to be respectful about it. I'm not here to argue. But no, it's I think everybody's going to be excited to have a full, free weekend, full stadium, no masks. And even with a mask on, it's kind of hard to yell, I mean, it kind of deters you from wanting to yell. So I think it's important for Brandon Jordan to keep his emotions under control and just try to get through that first, calm and cool, and let's get your offense up to bat and then kind of settle in from there.
His counterpart, a junior righty, Chad Dallas, is 8-1 with a 4.25 earned run average, only 15 walks on the year. Here's the thing about Dallas, Drew. He throws a lot of strikes. He has 91 strikeouts, so that's not a good number for a team that seemingly swings and misses a bunch like the Gamecocks do. However, he's been hit around a bunch as well. His last couple of outings haven't been that good. 13 combined hits, 9 earned runs. He has walked 4 in that span, so maybe that continues tonight. And then let's couple that with the approach for South Carolina. Look, Kentucky, I get it. They're not Arkansas. They're not Vanderbilt. But, Drew, as well as anybody, it is unbelievably difficult to sweep anybody in this league, especially on the road. And Kentucky was playing for their postseason lives, man. I mean, if they won that series last weekend, they're probably a tournament team. And Carolina went up there and tattooed them in 3 straight games. What did you think about the offensive approach for Carolina? Did it look a little different to you?
It looked like they're a little more aggressive. I mean, it looked like, instead of letting the game come to them, they took it to the game. They weren't going to sit back and hope for 1 or 2 to win it. I mean, these players aren't stupid. They've been around, on these Friday nights where Farr has pitched good, just not great, and they haven't been able to get the run support to get the win. And eventually, that offense is a seasoned lineup with Brady Allen and Wes Clark and Andrew Reister. I mean, these guys get it, and they know that this could be their year. And I think they just kind of came out the gate swinging. Wimmer, I love watching him play. It boggled me when he didn't play at Clemson. I just thought to myself, I had some big games there as a freshman, and he is an electric type of player. And I said, God, I'd want him in the lineup to do something good, But then he comes back, last weekend against Kentucky and has a great weekend. It's a couple home runs. So I think going on the road for them last week may have been a little bit good. Sometimes it's good to go on the road when you need a little break from home, scuffle a little bit. You got to, it's good to go away and just kind of feel like you're on your own. Sometimes it's not so good, i.e. Texas, or, you go out there at the wrong time and it's not good. But they certainly played good in Kentucky. I always like playing in Kentucky. It just, the grass is green. I mean, the blue is always a good look, especially that new stadium. It looked great on TV. I just remember that big scoreboard and Wright. It was a Wright porch back in the day, and that was like target practice for us. So we always felt like we could hit pretty good in Kentucky for whatever reason. So it's good. Sometimes it's these late season kind of conference games. Obviously, they're extremely important to the game, but offensively in your mind too. When it hits May, and it's gonna be hot up in Columbia, and I don't know how much heat. Really, we haven't seen much heat around here. And so I can't imagine Tennessee seeing much either. So maybe that Saturday day game may be a little warm for them. But most hitters, all the hitters, they want to get their their bats going. They know the postseason's coming up, and now's not the time to be sloping the wrong way. And so everybody's kind of full of confidence, whether it's real or fake. Sometimes you got to trick yourself and saying, hey, now's the time it is time to go. One last series before the postseason and, get it tuned up. But you still got to win the ball games. Sometimes you may have to lay down a bunt when you want to swing away or stuff like that. So it'd be interesting to see, which teams really treat this like championship weekend. And I think Carolina will. And if Tennessee just plays it out like, hey, we're not going to overthrow our guys, we seem pretty comfortable with where we are, we'll see how that goes. Tony Vitello was very complimentary of South Carolina earlier this week. Wes Clark has hit 20. Drew, he's tied with a guy as a matter of fact, he was just before you at South Carolina, Derek Urquhart, one of the great players in the history of the program. One more home run is going to tie him with a guy you played with, Tim Whitaker, former catcher at Carolina, and also a guy who's pretty damn good, Steve Pierce, who hit 21 in back-to-back years in 04, 05. Wes has certainly had his struggles this year. It's been hard to watch him hit at times, to be honest, at least from my perspective. But the last few games, he's swung it fairly well, Drew, and even some of his outs have been hard hit. He's a guy they have to win in the postseason. What have you seen from Wes Clark? Yeah, I'd start off by saying you're exactly right. They've got to have him in the postseason. Just the threat of him at the plate with bases loaded will scare teams, so they'll pitch people in front of him if he's swinging the bat good. Going back to those home run totals, we had a little text thread with some old players, and this is early on in the season. I kept saying, hey, can Wes Clark get to 29? Can you go after your own number, your own Peters? And a couple of them were like, no way. And I said, why? They said, well, the SEC is just too good. It's just too good to continue to keep those home runs up. I said, well, keep in mind your own didn't hit most of his home runs until SEC play, and hell, he hit 6 in a regional. So true. I didn't know where he'd end up, but truth be told, they could have 20 more games left this season. And if Wes Clark is swinging it good, they could have 20 more games this season. So it'll be interesting to see. I think he's looked good and bad at times. I think sometimes the pitching approach has been pretty spot on, and guys are hitting their targets, and it makes it tough. And maybe sometimes if they feel like he's slumping a little bit, maybe they're not trying to nitpick as much, and he's running into a couple. But regardless, it doesn't matter if he's feeling good or bad. You can't make the mistake over the plate to him. He's going to hammer it when he's got his swing on time. I don't know if he's guessing, trying to be too much of just a barreled up guy, trying to hit too many home runs at other times. It doesn't seem like he just gets totally comfortable like he was in the beginning of the season, where he had a nice, simple approach, and then if he made a mistake, it just went out the ballpark. Now it seems like he's trying to hit balls out the ballpark more, and it gets him a little bit of trouble. Well, hopefully they leave the yard tonight. I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 of them. That'd be good for South Carolina. Gamecocks looking to win a series against the Vols. If they do, final quick question, Drew, before we have to update this leaderboard and let you run, brother. If they win the series versus the Vols, we all know it's been difficult at times, most of the time, for Carolina and Hoover. So if they can finish the year at 33-19, maybe by winning 2 games starting tonight, do you think they deserve a top 16 host seat? Not as a Gamecock fan. I'm asking you from a baseball perspective based on what you've seen out of them this year. Yeah, I'll be honest. I can't be an expert on the top 20, meaning I didn't think they were top 16, right? So it puts them at 17, 18, 19, or 20. And so there are 4 teams that played themselves out of it. Because you got to have that happen first. I don't think if they sweep Tennessee, they could have moved themselves in, played themselves in. But if they take 2 of 3, I think the committee's going to look at it, and a team or two is going to have to play themselves out of it. And I hadn't checked recently just to see how that looks. But I think, you win 2 of 3 here and go to Birmingham and have a decent, good showing. Yeah, I think they're in. If you go 2 of 3 and lose 2 in Q, and the other teams kind of did some similar stuff along the way, once they announced those 20 teams, it may be tough. But don't sleep on the fact that the committee likes Founders Park. Very true. Especially probably like the fact that we just opened it up to 100%. So when you think about a year where money matters and a lot of tickets went unsold, and I mean everybody's scraping the barrel to find the extra dollars. If it's a coin flip and I'm just making the school up, Cal State Northbridge or Founders Park, I think we get that nod every time. So kudos to our program. We built it for not necessarily that reason you get favors, but you're blind if you don't think that has something to do with the decisions, because you have to decide it on something when the teams look even on paper. You've got to figure out something to go on. So that's where having a big program and a reputation of hosting teams and officials and scorekeepers and media like Carolina does, it plays out in your favor. People want to come back.
Former All-American first-round draft pick Drew Meyer, 7 o'clock tonight, first pitch, 7 tomorrow, noon on the SEC Network on Saturday. Thanks, Drew. Pulling through, brother. Great stuff as always. We'll talk to you very soon.
Thank you, Jamie.
Later.
You got it, man. There you go. And we are all but out of time. Remember, Florida and Arkansas 9-1 tonight at 7 o'clock on the SEC Network. And Darren, final look at the leaderboard. Keegan Bradley's up there with Victor Hovland, Brooks Koepka, and Colin Morikawa. Morikawa's almost done with his day, so those 4 will be in the clubhouse.
Yep.
In the tournament.
Right. As long as Morikawa pars, then all 4 will be in the clubhouse. Tringali's in at -2, and a little bit of movement from the guys in the afternoon wave. So we'll see how much the wind impacts the afternoon compared to the morning.
Awesome job today, Darren. Thank you for all of your hard work, man. You're really good at what you do. Thanks to Drew Meyer, Scott Glaze, and Meredith Taylor. Scott and Meredith will be back with us tomorrow as well. It is National Streaming Day. Hello. And it is also National Rescue Dog Day. I've done that a bunch in my life. I hope you all will as well. Thanks to all of you. We'll see you tomorrow at noon on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.